Hello and welcome to the session on the new high school personal finance course info and resources for 23-24. I am Aaron Standish. I am the K-12 Financial Literacy Program Planner for the School District of Palm Beach County. And this is a session that we presented live in person on August 8th at the Social Studies Back to School Symposium. But we realized that many of you were unable to attend for a variety of reasons, so we wanted to record it for those of you who were interested in getting this information. It is a lot of new information. I highly recommend the best you can to at least fast forward through parts of this that you already know, but get to the new course standards information and the new course information that is brand new just as of several weeks ago. This is really new and fresh information. First and foremost, you see a hyperlink up there. I know you can't click it, you're watching the video, but if you type that in, that'll take you directly to this presentation, or that QR code will take you directly to the presentation if you want to view the presentation. So let's start with talking about what are these new standards and new courses that are coming around for 23-24 that many of you probably have on your schedules right now, or if you don't, you should, and you're probably wondering what exactly it is, what's the change from last year. So let's first give a little bit of a history lesson real quick. I think that helps to understand where financial literacy has been, helps you understand where it is now and where it might be going. So first and foremost, back in 2014 was when we saw the first iteration of financial literacy requirements in the state of Florida. And in 2014, it was required that financial literacy was embedded within the existing economics course. And so that was the birth of the course that probably a few of you watching this have taught or are currently teaching, and that's that Economics with Financial Literacy course. So that first started in 2014, and that lasted until 2019 when it was actually removed from the economics requirement. Even though we still do it in our district, it's not required by statute anymore. And a new statute was passed which said that schools must make available a financial literacy elective. Now that was interpreted a lot of different ways because make available was a little bit of a gray area, but many of our schools put that a course called Personal Financial Literacy on their master board schedules for the first time. And we were one of the largest districts in the state, or I should say we were one of the districts with the most sections of that course in the entire state. So I was very proud of the way that our district administered that. Now, fast forward that to 2022. This is March of 2022. And finally, after this was, I believe, the 8th year that this bill was attempted, which was to remove financial literacy for economics for good and make financial literacy its own separate standalone requirement. So you can watch this video in which it was officially passed.
By Senator Hudson and others, Senate Bill 1054, a bill to be entitled an act relating to financial literacy instruction in public schools.
Representative Busara Cabrera, you're recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the bill on financial literacy that we heard yesterday.
Are there amendments?
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Is there debate? Is there debate? Seeing no debate, Representative Busara Cabrera, you're recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whether our students are headed to one of our great colleges or universities, a valuable trade or apprenticeship program, the military, or a career in the arts, every single one of them deserves to be equipped with the education and information on how to succeed and thrive financially in our society. Thank you.
The question now recurs on final passage of Senate Bill 1054. The clerk will unlock the machine, and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
117 yeas, 0 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
This is a unanimous vote. That was, like I said, about 8 years in the making. So I know it looked easy there, but that was many, many years of effort. And then, as many of you know the process, once the bill is passed in both houses of the Florida legislature, then it has to go to the governor's desk, in which you can choose to sign or not sign it. And fortunately, only about 3 weeks after it was passed, I won't play the video. The volume's really low in the video. but the governor did go to the governor's desk, and the governor did hold a signing ceremony, and that was on March 22nd, 2022. So that was when it officially, the bill was passed, which would be a standalone financial literacy elective.
By Senator Hudson and others, Senate Bill 10.
When bills are passed, they go into effect on the first day of the following fiscal year, which would be July 1st. So on July 1st, 2022, in a bill that officially became known as the Dorothy Huckel, that was named after a longtime Florida legislator who had long pushed for the passage of this bill, who unfortunately passed away before it was passed. But they named it after her. So the Dorothy Huckel Financial Literacy Act went into effect on July 1st of 2022. And what it added was what you see on the screen there in front of you. If you don't know, and why would you, Florida Statute 1003.4282 is the part of the Florida statute that states regular diploma graduation requirements. And so number 3 is what lays out how many credits are required under each discipline, and then a new one was added, a new subsection under number 3, which was H, which stated 1/2 credit in personal financial literacy. Now let's read it so that we can understand what it actually says. It says, beginning with students entering grade 9 in the 2023-2024 school year, each student must earn 1/2 credit in personal financial literacy and money management. Students entering grade 9 in 2023-24. So they have to take it before they graduate. It doesn't say they have to take it in grade 9. It says that they must take it before they graduate as a requirement to earn a standard diploma in the state of Florida. Now I want to emphasize here, and this is a misconception that some people still have on this, it did not remove any economics requirements. I'll probably say this a number of times during this presentation. Economics, personal finance are separate requirements. They are separate subjects. They are separate disciplines. They are not one and the same. So that is something we have to fight often at a lot of in a lot of school campuses and from a lot of administrators who think that, and I get the confusions because we taught for many years financial literacy was embedded within economics, and it's important to note that they have been divorced. And they are both still surviving and thriving. You still have an economics requirement, but you have this new now personal financial literacy also standalone requirement. And basically what the DOE had to do was determine which courses meet that requirement, because what I don't have written there is that 1003.42823H is a little bit longer there. I cut the rest of it out, but it goes on to list 13 points of instruction that they say must be included in a course for it to meet the requirements. And so the DOE basically determined that the prior standards that we've long used for financial literacy since 2014 were not sufficient to meet the new requirements of the new statute. So they determined that new ones would have to be written. And that's what happened. And so, I was fortunate. I don't know if fortunate is the right word, but I was in the Department of Education's Financial Literacy Work Group. We actually met for almost 8 months, pretty regularly. We didn't have much direction when we first started in terms of what to do. It's just a lot of discussion back and forth, and then finally, I would say around December, so we got some direction that they wanted to write basically new standards from scratch, which is a really unique opportunity. And that's what happened, and that took a few months to write those new standards. And then eventually they went in front of the State Board of Education, which has to approve anything that comes down from the DOE. And the State Board of Education approved the new financial literacy standards at their May meeting. And I'm talking May 2023, so this is relatively recent. One thing I want to point out, it says it there on the screen, I realize a lot of teachers may not know this yet. We used to refer, and this is statewide, discipline-wide, that a lot of the standards, at least like the non-ELA, non-math ones, those are our Common Core, we call them BEST standards now. All the other ones are typically referred to as Next Generation Sunshine State Standards, NGSSS. That naming convention has been eliminated. So the DOE decided they would now, instead of using NGSSS, They would refer to them as Florida's state academic standards. So that's what these new financial literacy, it's the Florida State Academic Standards for Social Studies Financial Literacy Strand, grades 9 through 12. So those were officially approved at the May State Board of Education meeting. Economic standards, unchanged. Did not touch the economic standards. Also, just to let you know, they also did not touch, there are middle school financial literacy standards. Those were untouched. There are also elementary financial literacy standards. Those are also untouched. And here you can see a quick video. I'll just show you a quick version of it. But that is Paul Burns. He is the Chancellor of K-12 Public Education at the Florida Department of Education. Here is him talking about the new financial literacy standards.
This rule amendment will update also our social studies and financial literacy standards to include the 13 principles that were found in Senate Bill 1054 from the 2022 legislative session. I think it's important to remember that the law changed, and so that students entering ninth grade for next school year in the 2023-2024 school year will be required to complete a half credit in financial literacy in order to graduate. And so these new standards will support our students in doing that and accomplishing these goals, and they will prepare students by making sure they have the knowledge to achieve financial stability and financial independence. These standards will include learning the basics of credit, learning how to build a budget, understand the budgeting process, understanding saving, and also understanding how to invest. So I'll just wrap up by saying that, again, the next step when these revised standards are presented to the board, the next step is that you will always see course descriptions then come back at a future meeting. So you will be seeing course descriptions that come back at an upcoming meeting, because once we update the standards, then we have to update the courses. And again, we're proud because our students are going to continue to engage in some great learning with our good educators across the state.
Vice Chair Petty, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just
We don't even hear the question and comments by the State Board of Education. They ended up passing it shortly thereafter. So, and you heard what Mr. Paul Burns said there was that was step one. They had to get new standards passed. Step two was then they had to come back and put those standards into courses and get those courses passed. So we'll talk about courses here in a moment. But here's the new standards. It is a lot of the same. Like I said, I know this well because I was on this work group. A lot of the old prior social studies financial literacy strand benchmarks were used also in the new version. As a matter of fact, they didn't eliminate any of them. We were told, the department ended up telling us, we want a menu to pick from. So basically we took all the old ones and then we wrote some new ones, areas in which we thought maybe there were gaps in coverage in terms of certain subject areas or content areas. And then also some of it was required by statute. Remember I told you there were those 13 points of instruction. And so we took all those, and you can see that there were 89 of them in the end. That's what was approved. And then from those 89, the courses were created. All 89 were not used in the courses. I will tell you that right now. I believe in the regular version of the course, 72 of them or so were used. But so you see there on the left-hand side of the screen the new standards. Previously, there were 6. Earning income was number 1, buying goods and services was number 2, saving was number 3, using credit was number 4, financial investing was number 5, and protecting and insuring was number 6. You can see a new one was added. So there are now 7 standards. The new one that was added is called financial attitudes and behaviors. It's meant to be the foundation, setting the foundation for students before they delve into a lot of these more comprehensive topics. In other words, they're looking at how did I form the financial decision behaviors that I have formed? What sort of societal values, what sort of personal values do I hold that helped shape my both my attitudes about money and my behaviors and actions surrounding money, including what sort of cognitive biases exist that either help me or don't help me make certain financial decisions. So I really like the standards. It really does set the foundation for the rest of the course. So that's the only completely new standard. The rest of the new benchmarks are really just an extension of some of the topics that if you've taught this course before, you were probably already teaching. So in the end, about 60% of the benchmarks were just straight up carryover from the prior version. So word for word carryovers. And about 40% of them are brand new. I think in the financial attitudes and behaviors of the brand new student, there's like 8 benchmarks. So that's 8 of the new ones. And then the rest of them are just, like I said, extensions of similar topics that we were already covering, but maybe a little bit deeper material in some of those. You can see the hyperlinks up there. I'm not going to click on them right now, but you can have a copy of this presentation, which you can click on those. We did crosswalk the new ones to the old ones for you, so we did it both ways. There's a crosswalk of the new standards on the left to what they correlate with in the old standards, and vice versa. I know for some of you, you may have lessons, you may have resources that were correlated to the old standards, so that can be a heavy lift if you have to do it yourself. Sometimes looking through and making sure you've got the right new benchmark on there. Well, we've already done that for you. So if you look at that second document, that's the old standards correlated to the new standards. So in other words, you might have an old standard that said FL.3.5 and the old ones. So the document, that second document there will show you, oh, FL.3.5 now correlates to, I don't know it off the top of my head, maybe it's 4.6, FL.4.6. I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there. But that's the purpose of that. So if you need to change some of your own documents, you can easily use that document to do so. This is also a good time to note that social studies is not the only discipline that has financial literacy standards. Math, as of just last year, that was the first year of implementation, they, as part of their BEST standards, right, those are our new Common Core, the benchmarks for excellent student thinking. As part of the Math BEST standards, they also have a financial literacy strand. Because they have a financial literacy strand and they have benchmarks, they developed a course to teach those benchmarks. And that course started last year in the 2022-23 school year, and we had close to 3,000 students in that course, which is a really high number for the first year of a course. So we have a lot of students taking that. It's a wonderful course. It's a great way, a good practical, realistic way for students to practice certain math skills, doing it through personal finance, and it's a great way to learn personal finance along the way too. But it does not meet the new half-credit personal financial literacy requirement, at least for this year. And there's a few reasons for that. One, it didn't meet all the 13 required points of instruction. When we did the analysis, it was actually woefully short in terms of meeting those 13 required points of instruction. And two, it already counts for a full credit of math. You need 4 credits of math to graduate. This counts as one of those 4 credits. It can't also count as a half credit of personal financial literacy. You can't get 1.5 credits, in essence, for a 1 credit course. So that's why it can't be used. However, there are a few of the Math BEST standards used in the new courses I'm about to show you. So just so you know that, they're not like, I know while this course we're talking about is not 100% of social studies teachers, I know we have a lot of social studies teachers that teach these courses, and I know that math can scare sometimes the social studies teachers having to do any sort of complex math problems. We made sure that when we created the course, they were not standards that required complex math knowledge to be able to teach them. We think they're really well written. They really add a lot of value to this course. It's things that deal with compound interest, and about as mathy as it gets is having to calculate compound interest. There's also one that deals with simulating a stock portfolio, which I think is a fantastic thing you should do. There's one that deals with coming up, using a spreadsheet to come up with a plan to pay off debt. Okay, and that's a fantastic skill or knowledge that students should be learning in this course. So we think the 5 that we picked out to use really do add some good value to these courses. So let's look at the new courses. This is very new. This was just at the July 19th, 2023 Florida State Board of Education meeting. So, I'm recording this in early August. This news is only a couple weeks old, and if your campus has questions, refer them to this. I'm still getting a lot of phone calls and emails, not fully understanding what courses meet the requirements or what courses should be on schedules this year. So there's 4 new courses. Well, basically 2 new courses with a regular and honors version of each. So the first is personal finance and money management. So in essence, and honors. It's a half credit course, so 1 semester. In essence, this course is meant to be the new half credit personal finance course, the new semester long personal finance course. It is classified as a social studies course because it primarily uses the, Florida's academic standards for social studies financial literacy strands. Those are the majority, not all, but the majority of benchmarks. So that's why it's classified. But you can also have a secondary or a 6 through 12 business or a 6 through 12 math professional certificate to teach this course. There's also 2 other new courses that are pretty unique, and these 2 courses are called Economics and Personal Finance and Honors. This is a 1 credit course, meaning it's a full year course. So in essence, it's meant to be a half year of economics and a half year of personal finance. And the cool thing about the course is that if you take this 1 credit course, it will meet both the half credit economics requirement and the half credit personal financial literacy requirement, right? Because half plus half equals 1, and it's a 1 credit course. So it is coded in the Florida Course Code Directory to meet both requirements. So it's a pretty unique course. And that course also is 6 through 12 social studies, 6 through 12 business, and 6 through 12 math. We also know, because it's in the Florida Course Code Directory now, that there's 1 other course that'll meet the half credit personal financial literacy requirement for this year, and that is an already existing CTE course. It was previous to this. It was a 1 semester CTE elective course, and that's 8500-120, and it's simply called Personal Financial Literacy now. It used to be called Personal and Family Finance. So that course is also coded as being able to meet the half credit personal financial literacy requirement. Now, that last start on there, this is really important. And these are the points that a lot of schools are missing out on. I don't think we've communicated this well enough. They're not hearing it. The existing financial literacy courses, now these courses are courses we've offered for years in our district. These have been what the Department of Education refers to as daggered. In essence, they've been marked for termination. The DOE has to give a 1-year notice when they mark courses, when they dagger courses, and they've given that 1-year notice. Most importantly, the first one listed there is a course that a lot of schools have had on their schedules in the past and had on their schedules going into this year. And that course is the social studies version. That's the old elective course called Personal Financial Literacy. It's 2102, 372, or 374. We are strongly suggesting that if you have that course on your schedules, you switch it to the new version of the half credit personal finance. Reason being, this course, Personal Financial Literacy, has been determined not to meet the half credit personal financial literacy requirement. It didn't meet all of those 13 required points of instruction and statute. So you can still offer it this year. It's still in the CCD for 1 more year. But the issue is, if you happen to have a student in that course who's 9th grade, right? That's the grade that is required to meet this half credit personal financial literacy for graduation. And they take this course, it's not going to check off the box to having met their half credit personal financial literacy requirement. So they'll eventually have to take another personal finance course. So the way we see it is that really every school should just simply switch it over. The material of the course is relatively similar. The book is attached to both courses. We'll talk about textbook in a little bit, but it's attached to both courses. It uses all the old standards, and plus it adds all the new ones that we said, some of them that are required. But it really, if you've still got that 2102, 372, or 374, the Personal Financial Literacy or Honors on your schedules, you should be requesting for that to be switched over to personal finance and money management. Now, Economics of Financial Literacy has also been marked for termination. That's the course that was required for years because remember I told you financial literacy used to be required to be embedded within economics. Really, that has not been required since 2019, but we kept that course because it was such a great course. We'd offer it for years, and most importantly, that course still meets the half-credit economics requirement. I'll repeat it again. There's two separate requirements. There's a half-credit economics requirements that's long existed. Nothing's happened to that. And there's a new half-credit personal financial literacy and money management requirement. That's new. Two separate requirements. So Economics of Financial Literacy can stay on schedules this year because it does still meet the economics requirement. Now, you're going to have to change to something else next year, which I'll talk about, but it does still meet it for this year. So that course is fine. But do understand it does not meet the new half-credit personal financial literacy requirement. So these are the only 5 courses that are expected. We're still waiting for final clarification of that. We know those 5 courses meet the personal financial literacy requirement because it's in the Florida Course Code Directory and it's on CPOMs. But the DOE has said that they're going to wait 30 days after the State Board of Education meeting that passed the courses to release some sort of memo or technical assistance paper to provide more guidance. As I record this, we are not at 30 days from the State Board of Education meeting yet. So we're hoping within the next few weeks that will be released. I get a lot of questions about the Math for Data and Financial Literacy course. I talked about that earlier. While it's a wonderful course, we love that it gets the students exposure to even more, practicing even more with personal finance and more financial literacy knowledge. It does not meet the half-credit personal finance requirement. And I told you the reasons already. It's already used for 1 credit of math, graduation requirement, and after the analysis was done, it was determined that it did not meet the 13 required points of instruction in state statute. It could change in future years. They may also come out with a half-credit math course that meets the requirement, that is not used for math, but is used for the personal financial literacy. So those are all on the table, but again, we'll know more about that in future years. It's definitely not coming for this year. 2 things we don't know is the district going to change the student progression plan? In other words, you might be asking yourself, or somebody's asked you, or you're thinking, where do we offer this course? All right. Because I was so involved in the writing of the course and the writing of the standards, I am certain it was designed as an upperclassmen course, as a course for 11th, 12th graders, right? These are students who are earning an income and getting a paycheck, having to read a paycheck for the first time. These are students who are going to have to pay taxes and know how to fill out a 1040. These are students who are going to have to evaluate student loan options. These are students who are going to have to fill out the FAFSA, which is part of the benchmarks now. These are students who may be looking to purchase a car, which is part of it, who may be looking to rent, an apartment. And these are all skills that are worked on in this course. So, we certainly prefer it to be done with students who can take the knowledge and put it into immediate action. And but I don't know what's going to happen in the student progression plan. I know just from seeing schedules so far this year, a lot of schools have sort of taken it upon themselves to place it somewhere, which is well within schools' rights right now because we haven't laid out any directions around it. And most schools I've seen do that just immediately default to 9th grade because even though it's not technically a social studies requirement, they still see it as a social studies requirement, and there is no 9th grade social studies requirement right now. So we'll see for the future. That's all I'll say. TBD for the future of what happens with the progression plan. We would like to pair it with economics. That's where it makes the most sense. Our teachers have been teaching it already for many years at that level. It's academically makes the most sense for the students to go from one to the other, but we don't have any good answers to that right at this moment. We know there are no accelerated versions of this course. There's no AP, IB, ACE version of the course, and there are no articulation agreements for dual enrollment right now. So we don't have an accelerated option, which we understand is a problem. So we're certainly going to look to see what we can do, especially with dual enrollment this upcoming year. It's not going to be ready for this school year, but hopefully by next school year, we're hoping to have that option. And that goes the same with virtual course options as well. All of the virtual providers still have the old course, that old personal financial literacy that I said before should be off everybody's schedule now. That's the virtual course that they have. I am certain as they figure this out, they will very quickly adjust because they need to get students in those courses. So I have a pretty good feeling before the school year's over, you'll have a virtual option of this course. So let's just quickly do like a breakdown of what are these new benchmarks that are in these new financial literacy standards. Now, when we were in person at the preschool, we did a little bit of discussion and a little bit of Jamboard. We're not going to do that here on a video, but I do at least want to put these slides up there for you so that you can see what the new, now I didn't include the old ones. The old ones, like I said, are unchanged. So I guess maybe I should have put all of them up there. I'm going in with the assumption that you know what the old standards are, and when I realize that we have a lot of people who might be teaching this for the first time who don't know the old standards. So I'm only going to talk about the new ones here. For those of you who are brand new to this course, I get asked a lot, where do I start? Right? Well, you start with your standards. That's where you start. That's absolutely the first place you start when preparing what to teach for this course, is you need to become familiar with what the standards are and what the benchmarks are under each standards, because this is what the students need to know by the time this course is finished. And so I just wanted to highlight what some of the new things were that changed from last year to this year. And to start, Standard 1 is brand new. And so, you know, I highlighted sort of the major topics, how values affect personal financial decision making, and then the various cognitive biases that affect the decisions that you make. So I'm not going to go through each of those, but again, that's something that within the first week or two, that should be really the first unit that you're teaching. It's the foundation for the rest of the course. Within earning income, which is now Standard 2, there are 6 new benchmarks compared to the prior version. The one talks about forms of income from financial investments, that's interest, dividends, and capital gains. Talks a little bit about how to become an entrepreneur and what is an entrepreneur and why do people decide to become entrepreneurs. You see something in there about gig employment now, so Uber drivers, DoorDash drivers, right? That's the gig economy. How Social Security is funded, how to complete appropriate tax forms. So you should be filling out 1040s with students. And again, if you have junior and senior students, maybe even younger students, they may have jobs in which they're required to fill out 1040s and do their income tax returns. So that may be a good lesson that they can immediately use. And then one of the ones required by statute is taxes at the local level. So what are they used for? How do counties collect them, so on and so forth. Standard 3 is now buying goods and services. There are 5 new benchmarks in that one. So the first one deals with different forms of payment that can be used to buy things, right? Comparing and contrasting those. Believe it or not, in the last iteration of our standards, there was very little on developing a budget because it was all in the like elementary and middle school. So we added in one that was all about developing a budget based on fixed and variable expenses. So you should be developing a budget with your students. You can use spreadsheet software. As part of your textbook, I'm going to talk about this later, I might as well mention now, your students get access to YNAB, Y-N-A-B, which is a phenomenal digital budgeting tool. And they get a free year-long license as part of that. So I'm really hopeful that we can provide some professional development around that, because that is a powerful tool that you can use, again, so you can do real-time budgeting with your students if you're using YNAB. The next one is required by statute, and that's that basically understanding what contracts are. And you know, like when you go to a website and you agree to terms and conditions, you're entering into a contract, and there are certain things you can and can't do legally as a result of that. And then also identifying and contesting the incorrect billing, saying that that's me, that was also required by statute. Standard 4 is now saving. It was Standard 3 prior. 4 new benchmarks in the saving one, and it really focuses on the types of products that is offered through banking institutions, through financial institutions. Primarily with savings, we're talking about banks and credit unions, but really any depository institution. So again, the prior iteration didn't, because it was in the younger versions, didn't talk about this a whole lot. So we wanted to make sure it was explicitly stated in there. And then the characteristics of all those different types of account, including online banking. And in the last, you know, that's so important for students to understand now, because almost probably all the students now who may have some sort of banking, they probably primarily access it through an online app or however they do it. And then the new 4.3, that was required by statute. The statute actually said something about balancing a checkbook. So we're trying to get away from, that a little bit. I don't know how many students that you have that are going to be balancing a checkbook, but the concept behind that they should understand. They do certainly need to understand how to reconcile an account, and they should be understanding the money coming in and making sure the money going out matches with what's in their records. So that's why we wrote 4.3 the way we did, just to regularly track and manage funds and to match it up with your records to the bank's records. Next one is using credit, and there's 4 new benchmarks under using credit. How to complete a loan application. That was required by legislation. I like that one though, because that includes any type of loan. That might include a car loan, right? That might include a personal loan. That might include the dangers of going to, those short-term loan providers that are unfortunately pretty commonly found in a lot of our towns throughout Palm Beach County. The credit card, then it goes into credit cards, analyzing the costs and benefits of credit cards. We had a lot of standards in that already. This just expanded it a little bit. And then the last two, 5.16 and 5.17, are all about student loans. There was nothing in our prior standards at all about student loans. So we really wanted to add this, and not just talk about loans, but just talk about the various ways in which post-secondary education can be paid for. Could be scholarships, grants, could be a number of different ways. And specifically, we named the FAFSA in there. Again, why I'm saying this is for upperclassmen, because you could actually sit down and have them fill out the FAFSA in class, because it is part of your benchmarks now for them to do that. Standard 6 is financial investing. Just 3 new benchmarks in financial investing. There really wasn't one in the prior one that actually named the specific asset classes, but actually the types of investments. So 6.1 right out of the gate does that. It just talks about the different asset classes that you can cover in that. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds, ETFs, real estate, money markets, and annuities, et cetera, et cetera. And the tax implications of each one. So that's you see in a lot of these benchmarks, there's clarifications talking about the tax implications. And then 6.13, 6.13 talks about the various accounts that hold these investments. Students need to understand the difference between an investment and the accounts that hold the investments. There's a difference. And so you're going to talk about retirement accounts, that's your 401k, or if you're going to be a teacher, a 403b, your IRA, traditional versus Roth, your education savings accounts, 529 plans, and even taxable brokerage accounts. That's if our students, you may have students who are actively investing. They probably have it in a taxable brokerage account. So it's important to talk to them about what that is and the tax implications, because that's really the difference in those accounts, is how they're taxed. So that's the new 6.13. And then 6.14 is new. It's digital currency, cryptocurrency. So basically just talking about what are the various reasons people may choose to use a digital currency or a cryptocurrency. So that's a new one. And then standard 7, your last standard, is protecting and ensuring. You have 6 new benchmarks there. You just go down, you see the fact that you could charge a premium, and that's how insurance companies are able to pay for losses. You're basically pooling the risk amongst all the people who are insured. We talk about supplemental insurance. Are extended warranties worth it? Things like that you should be addressing with your students. And then 7.12 is a new one, because also in protecting and ensuring, we talk a lot about protecting your assets. And part of protecting your assets is not fall into identity theft, right? Not fall into the wide variety of cyber crimes that we know are very popular now. And so the next couple of benchmarks, and I'll talk about the impact of your digital footprint as well. The fact that students don't realize a lot of what they do online might follow them for a long time. And so they just need to understand sort of the implications of using certain digital technologies. And then going down, it talks about estate planning. You can, I don't know how much you want to get into estate planning with students, but you can certainly just mention it and explain what it is. 7.14 was required by statute, the implications of receiving an inheritance, I suppose. And then the laws and regulations concerning personal finance, that's an important one. Just how is the consumer protected? What does the government do? What organizations are out there to help protect the consumer from a lot of the bad actors that are out there trying to get their hands in their wallets. All right, so let's talk about the different places you can find support for your personal finance course. First and foremost, we now have a Google Classroom for the various courses that we support. So the one that's highlighted there is for the personal finance and money management. So please, if you have yet to join that classroom, please join it. We'll update it occasionally, but there's a lot, right now there's lots and lots of resources on that page that you can access. And then also you have a textbook this year. That's new. I am both excited and worried about getting the textbook for this course. We've taught this course for years now with no textbook, and we have a lot of really high quality material available to teach this course. I may say this several times, but I just want to make clear the textbook is not the course, right? Personal finance and money management is your course. The standards and the benchmarks tell you what you're supposed to teach in the course. We've created a scope and sequence that tells you all those standards and benchmarks and a logical order in which you can cover those, which I'm going to go over in a few moments. The textbook is simply a resource you can use to cover some of those standards and benchmarks. What you certainly should not be doing is day one opening up the book and saying, all right, we're starting on page 1, go. Please don't do that. This book is not perfectly correlated to our standards and benchmarks. The fact of the matter is there just aren't a lot of personal finance textbooks out there yet because it hasn't been a course that's been widely offered, so there's just not a lot of money in it. So they're not as high a quality as some of the big publishers may have. Not that this isn't a high quality book. The book we have is very high quality, but it's not perfectly. It's not perfect for what we need. So I would just caution you to just open the book and only thumbing through the book and using it. We have so many good resources available to you, so many good lessons, and you're going to need to do it in a different order than the book has it too. I'm not a huge fan of necessarily of the way that it's ordered in the textbook. But the textbook's there for you. Again, a great supplemental resource. They have an amazing digital platform. It's called Ed. That hopefully you've been able to attend some sessions on and learn about, and please utilize the resources that are available through that. Just so you know, I'm not going to talk about it right now, just in the interest of time, but I just wanted you to see this textbook went through a process to be adopted. Certainly it wasn't myself. I had zero role in the process at all. It's a committee of teachers that meet, that fill out rubrics, that see presentations from the various publishers, who get a look at all the digital offerings, get a look at all the paper offerings, and then in the end decide of which one they wanted to suggest for approval. So there were 5 or 6 personal finance textbooks that were put for bid in our district, so that was impressive. So I know our committee did a good job of pretty thoroughly looking through them and deciding on what they felt was the best one. And I agree, this is a fine textbook. It was, full disclosure, this was a textbook originally written for the college classroom, which again is why I say this is an upperclassman course, because this textbook is almost certainly better suited for upperclassmen. But I'm a big fan of some of the material in this textbook, and again, the digital platform is wonderful. So I do think you're going to get a lot of really good use out of this book. So what you should be getting with the book is you get a print. The students get a print version, and they get access to a digital version. They should be able to access the digital version through their portal. The teacher, again, because remember what I said in the last slide, this was originally a designed for college classrooms. College classrooms, they don't have print teacher's editions. So there is no print teacher edition, but there is a digital teacher edition. So you do get a digital teacher edition, which again, you should have access to both in your portal and through Blender. Or you can also go directly to the Ed platform and put in your district credentials, and it'll take you to it as well. And also you have access that was purchased for you to a tool they have called Teacher's Corner. which has got a lot of great videos. It's got a lot of current events. It's got a lot of professional development designed just for high school teachers, so that's great. I already mentioned the YNAB, the You Need a Budget, YNAB. Your students get a free access to that, free for a year. Please try to use that. I think it'll be a great tool in your classroom. And again, it's highly recommended if you weren't able to attend those sessions by HMH. We've put out some asynchronous material. We have it on Blender. We have it on Google Classroom. Please become familiar with the Ed platform. Again, I think you'll find it's got a lot of very useful tools to supplement and enhance your instruction of this. So just real quickly, I want to show you some of the tools you have available to you. We do have a full Blender page for personal finance and money management. There is what it looks like. If it doesn't come up on your Blender screen when you go through the portal, I've been told at the beginning of the year teachers haven't been linked to their courses for whatever reason. But you can do it yourself, and it's very easy. You can actually link yourself to any course that you want to. You could link yourself to kindergarten social studies if you wanted to. You see I put a screenshot up there, but if you click catalog, and this is after you go into Blender through your portal, if you click catalog and then course, up will pop up the selections. You can scroll down. It's got elementary, middle, high school. You can scroll down to high school, and then you see I've got an arrow there. It's alphabetical. You can find personal finance and money management, and just make sure you hit that star and the star turns yellow. Once that star is yellow there, that course shows up in your courses every time you sign into Blender. And if you don't want it to show up there anymore, just uncheck it. So even if you don't teach the course first semester and you maybe teach a second semester, well, just go in and add it first semester. So if you want to go in and look at some things, you can. Here's what the Google Classroom looks like. When it first comes up as your stream, most of you are pretty, I think, familiar with Google Classroom. We tried to create like a discussion thread. You know, it's something that's actually been requested by me a few times, is that teachers want to have a communal space where they can talk with other teachers and get ideas, you know, sort of like a Facebook groups type thing, only we don't want to use Facebook because we want to access it here at the district. So that's what we try to do. It's not perfect, but you see at the bottom there, we tried to create a discussion forum. So basically, if you have any questions or anything come up, just throw it out there. Hopefully another teacher will answer it. If not, one of us will jump in and try to best answer it. But the majority of what you're going to find there is found on the classwork tab. And you can see the red arrow there. I've got the classwork tab right there. That's where we've got various topics. We've got all the resources you would need to teach this course. Not only is it in Blender, it's also in this Google Classroom. So anytime any sort of new news comes out, we'll post it here on Google Classroom. But I'll try not to post too much. I know you don't like getting all those notices. Let's take a look at the Personal Finance and Money Management Scope and Sequence and Instructional Focus Calendar. Just real quickly, you know, especially for those of you who are newer to teaching, you know, sometimes we do all this academic talk, and I forget that this is my 23rd year in education. So, you know, I know what a lot of these things mean, and I realize that some of the people who are newer might not exactly know. So I just wanted to real quickly talk about what a scope, and we talk about our scope and sequence, what it is. First of all, it's basically your blueprint for the class. You know, I said before, your book is not your blueprint, right? Your scope and sequence is your blueprint for what you're going to teach. So first of all, what's a scope? Well, a scope is just the breadth of content you've got to cover, which is your standards, right? It's the standards and then the benchmarks under each standard. That's the content that the state requires you to cover in the course. The sequence portion of that then, so that's the scope, and then the sequence is just, well, what order should I do that in? What's the sequencing of that? So you got to plan that ahead of time. If you don't, you will run out of time. I promise you. I've been there, done that. Right? You will run out of time. So you need to go into the plan. What are the standards I have to cover, and what's the timing in which I need to cover those? And so that's what we've done for you. We create a suggested. It is just suggested. You know, the bottom line is you're professionals. As long as you're covering the scope, as long as you're covering the standards of your course, you can determine the sequence. Unless, I'll put one qualifier there, unless your school tells you have to follow a certain sequencing. But it does happen where occasionally principals, and I don't blame them, but you know, occasionally they'll say you must follow the district scope and sequence. Generally, that does not happen for this course, but in case it does, sorry. but I do think our sequencing is very good. But you do have to cover the scope. The sequencing, again, is sort of up for adaptation. But so basically the purpose of the scope and sequencing is to help you plan, right? So, okay, I know the standards, I know the sequencing in which I should cover them. Now, what resources do I want to use to do that? Now, we're going to help you provide some of those resources, but we're just, and the textbook provides some of those resources, but ultimately, as a professional, if you're covering the scope, you can sort of, although we need to be a little careful now, but you can use a variety of types of resources to help you cover that. So let's take a look at, here's the scope and sequence that we've created for personal finance and money management. There's a few things I just wanted to point out about this. First is the unit name. Unit name is just standard name. We kept it simple for this course. The unit name is a standard name. So you see right there, Unit 1 is Financial Attitudes and Behaviors. That also happens to be Standard 1. Next up, you'll see we put the benchmarks for each unit underneath each standard, right? So if you don't understand what the naming convention is, I also understand a lot of teachers early in the careers don't understand that. So let's just take a look at that real quick. But you see, like, the very first one is SF. That stands for Social Studies. That means it's a standard that falls under Social Studies. .912. That means it's for 9th through 12th graders. .FL. That means it's the financial literacy strand of the Social Studies standards. .1. That means it's the first standard. Right? Remember, we said the first standard is Financial Attitudes and Behaviors. And then .1. That means it's the first benchmark under the first standard. And then I wrote out what that first benchmark is. Evaluate and reflect on how values affect personal financial decision making. So that's how the naming convention works there. We also put in the benchmark clarifications. I want to emphasize this for you. This is new this year. These are new. The state is starting to add these. Anytime they do new standards, are starting to add also benchmark clarifications, which are exactly what they sound like. It's basically a clarification on the material that has to be covered on the benchmark. We have been told over and over again by the DOE, the benchmark clarifications hold just as much weight as the benchmarks. It's important. That means it's not optional material. It holds just as much weight as the benchmark. So it is information that you should also be covering in the benchmarks. There are a few, I believe it's 5 in this course, that are only in the honors version of the course. So if you teach the regular version of personal finance and money management, the ones that are marked honors only, it's optional for you to teach those. You can if you want, but it's not required. It's part of that course. Next, we have a column labeled Essential Questions. This is very important. When you start a unit and you're planning a unit, you should start with what I want the students to learn. That's one of the early things I learned as a teacher. Begin with the end in mind. I'll never forget that. I repeat it all the time. Begin with the end in mind. Again, what are you planning for if you don't know what you want your students to learn before you start a unit? That's what the essential questions are. Basically, these are the questions that students should be able to answer by the time I finish the unit. Then we give you a suggested time. Again, suggested. But I would recommend trying to stay. This is a lot of material, so it's important that you keep a pretty tight track on the amount of time that you're spending on each unit. I realize that some of you like certain units more than others. You may be really into investing, and that's fine. You can spend a few more days on it, but a few more days, right? Not a few more weeks, because you do have other units you need to cover. And then we have available resources. These are things that are freely available that we've curated from our office, or that are available from other sources. So these are all hyperlinked in your scope. That's this screenshot's a little old. And so the rundown is basically for the personal finance and money management course, you've got 77 total content benchmarks, 82 in the honors version. 72 of the 77 are from that new social studies, right? The Florida State Academic Standards for Social Studies Financial Literacy Standard that I just talked about was passed in May. It's an extra 5 for the honors course, and then 5 of them are from the financial literacy strand and the math best standards. And then there is an additional 15 that you can look in your scope that are other math and ELA ones that appear in most every course. Just making sure that you're doing some reading and writing with the students and some basic math. And I'm not going to read through this. You certainly have access to this, but this just shows you the order of our scope and sequence. But there is one thing I want to point out on this. New for this year, we did make a change in the ordering of the units. I've thought long and hard about this. This is, we've supported this course for years, so I really like our sequencing. I think it works. I think it logically makes sense. I think it also goes relatively close with how the book, it's not going to be perfect in line with the book, but if you look at the scope, I forgot to point that out in the scope, we do tell you the appropriate chapters and sections. You can see it at the very top of the line resources where it says HMH, Introduction to Personal Finance. We tell you the appropriate chapters and sections that, if you are using your books as a supplemental resource, that correspond with those units. So the one change we made was we actually flip-flopped credit and saving. You can see just by the numbers that on front of you that credit is actually the 5th standard, but we have it as the 4th unit, and saving is actually the 4th standard, but we have it as the 5th unit. And we got a lot of good feedback about that, and we thought long and hard about it, but ultimately the reason we made the change was, so Unit 3 and Standard 3 is buying goods and services, and then it just logically, instead of jumping right into saving and then going using credit, well, using credit is typically part of buying goods and services. That is one way to purchase goods and services, is use a credit card, take a loan, whatever it may be. So I think, and most curriculum resources we use, including your textbook, sort of cover it that way. So I think it was easiest just to go straight from buying goods and services to using credit. And then it also made sense on the other end of it is we put saving at Unit 5, which leads right into Unit 6, which is investing. A vast majority of there's actually a lot of similarities if you look between the saving and investing units. They go hand in hand. So looking back on it, it didn't make much sense to do saving and then do using credit and then go back to financial investing. So it just makes a lot of sense to do buying goods and services using credit together, and then to do saving and investing together. All right, so that was the switch that was made this year. I think that's a good progression to cover them in. So new for this year in terms of scope and sequence, if you've taught this course before, well, you've got an entirely new unit. That's that financial attitudes and behaviors. I've talked about that enough. I just talked about the rearranged units, so I don't need to go into that again. And I just told you a few moments ago that we added those new textbook and chapter sections into the scope to match with the appropriate units. We also put out what's called the instructional focus calendar. So here's what your instructional focus calendar looks like. I just wanted to point out what's under the red box there. This is just a graphical representation of your scope and sequence. That's all it is. It's literally just a graphical representation of your scope and sequence. For me, and I know for a lot of our teachers, it's just easier to read. It also looks good like to post in your classroom and show an administrator. It also looks good, to put it in your syllabus. And so what we have is, and it matches the scope day by day. It's an exact match to the sequencing and the scope. And so we just list, we've got it by day, and then just list the unit and the title of the unit. And then underneath that, where you see the red box, in purple is the social studies strand, right? The financial literacy strand and the social studies standards. That's what's in red. In yellow, where you see yellow, those are financial literacy strand benchmarks in the math standards that are in each unit. Again, you don't see that in every unit, just a couple of them. And then in red, we again matched it with the appropriate chapter and section in case you're using your textbook as a supplemental resource. So that's what you're looking at there. Okay. This is our virtual classroom. We've been putting this out ever since COVID. That's why we've been doing this for a few years. But it's basically just everything you need in a one-stop shop. I mean, this is literally every document. I'm going to show you some of the documents. You can access it here. We have it standalone. It's the first thing you see when you pull up the Blender page. It's meant to be just a one-stop shop. Let me go to this one page, and I can access every document you would ever need to teach the course. This is one of them that's on there. We call it our standards-based OER lesson identifier. Those who don't know, OER stands for Open Educational Resource, which basically means free. It means free to use, free to post, no restrictions on them. That's what I mean. We say OER all the time, and I realize a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about when I say OER, because we use it a lot in our office. And then what we did was this is all the new benchmarks. We've already done it to all the new benchmarks. We basically took every single benchmark, and then we took a lot of the popular OER curriculum providers, and then we matched up their resources with each individual benchmark unit by unit by unit. We have it divided by unit. So you can see on the page in front of you, some of the more popular curriculum providers are NGPF, the Next Gen Personal Finance. Take Charge Today is great. Foolproof is all digital. They're wonderful. And the CFPB, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And then the page cuts off, but there's a few more down there too. So this gives you hundreds and hundreds of possibilities. So if you know, I got to teach, 7 point, I need some more resources to teach FL.7.4. You can pull this up and see a myriad of options to teach that benchmark. We took it a step further. We also created a suggested, I highlight suggested, lesson or resource to use for each day of the academic calendar. All right, so for those of you who are looking for a little bit more guidance, we especially had to do this when we had no textbook. I don't know how long we'll continue to do this because you now have a textbook to help, but in the immediate future, we're gonna keep doing this because we get a lot of positive feedback on it. This matches the scope perfectly. It matches the instructional focus calendar perfectly. We have QODs. Those are questions of the day. Those are like your bell ringers. Those come from NGPF for every day. That can sort of get the jumping off point. And then we also, on every Friday, these also come from NGPF. We have the FinCap Fridays. Again, it's real quick lesson that's meant to be a hook to get the students interested. At the end of every single unit, I'm a big believer, especially for personal finance, in doing project-based assessments. And so that's what we have at the end of every single unit. We have some sort of project-based assessment that you can do with your students. You don't have to do project-based assessment. If you scroll to the end of that prior document, we have ways in which you can get access to your traditional multiple choice type tests. Your textbook has a lot of them available. NGPF provides end of unit assessments. Take Charge Today provides end of unit multiple choice questions. That's up to you. So let's look at some other supplemental resources that you can access. There are a lot of them. When I first started this position, we had to scrap around for personal finance resources. That is not the case anymore. There are so many providers and so many providers that really offer high quality. So I'm going to show you all the high quality. And by the way, almost everything I show you on here is 100% free. So that's the best part about this. NGPF is typically the leader in the clubhouse. For most teachers, they really know how to treat teachers. They have lots of good professional development. They have lots of good certification programs. They give out a lot of stipends. They give out a lot of swag. So if you haven't already logged in and joined NGPF, I highly suggest it. Take Charge Today is out of the University of Arizona. Really high quality curriculum. Making Personal Finance Decisions, that's out of the St. Louis Fed. That's where it's housed now. Same with It's Your Paycheck. Econ EdLinks, the Council for Economic Education. So these are all traditional. You're going to get your traditional lesson plans. Same with these. Practical Money Skills. I don't like to share many things that have branding on them. I don't think that's always appropriate in the classroom. While a lot of the resources can be pretty harmless, innately they're there for customer acquisition. Practical Money Skills is sponsored by Visa. So I don't always like to use Practical Money Skills, but you can look through it, and if you think some of them are appropriate for your classroom, you can use them. The CFPB, I told you already, has got some, just in the last year, they've really started to develop a lot of new lessons. So high quality, just really good stuff. The Choose 5 Foundation, too, has some really good curriculum. Next is digital resources. So these are modules that students can complete online. Foolproof we've used for many years, fantastic partner in our district. You can still continue to use them, absolutely. A lot of their material meets not all the new benchmarks, but plenty of the new benchmarks. Khan Academy, that's brand new. They just came out with a financial literacy program a couple weeks ago. And the best part, it's single sign-on through our district. So your students will already be rostered and can sign on directly through their portal. So that's a nice little feature. Same with EverFi. EverFi has a lot of different, not just a regular financial literacy program. They have a credit program. They have an investing program. Those are both good supplemental tools. Things great when you're not in the classroom, or good homework assignments, things to do at home to reinforce a lesson. Same with those other ones up there. If you want a consumable workbook, Financial Freedom, although I get a lot of reports that a lot of the stuff in there is outdated, but that's through the Florida Council on Economic Education, and you can order those. You can order class sets for free. The other one down there, Financial Fitness for Life and the Ramsey Foundation of Personal Finance, are both fee-based, so you will have to pay for those. I know the Ramsey one is quite pricey. JA, Junior Achievement, does have programming in our district, so if you have questions about any JA programming, this is the flyer from last year. I don't have an updated one from this year, but certainly I know they still offer many of these programs. You can reach out to me to ask, or you can reach out to, I think there's some hyperlinks in there that has their contact info. And then I'm gonna scroll through a lot of these because I'm not with you face to face, but I just want to show you where to go in some of these the sites I just talked about that are good places to get free resources. They're all free to sign up. NGPF, there's where you can sign up. The semester course is most likely what you want to click on to find lessons there. Here's what their semester course lessons look like. The student activity packet's exactly what it sounds like. It's just a packet that you give to the students and have them complete some activities in it. You can edit it because it is available through Google Docs. You have to sign into your account if you want to view the answer key for that. You see where it says view answer key, and they also have Nearpod slide decks, which can be imported into Google Slides if you don't want to do it via Nearpod. So that's a nice feature as well. You can also, if you don't want to do the semester, you can also look unit by unit, and so you can click on each unit. I say this a lot when I'm talking about NGPF resources. A lot of their best activities are not in their lesson plans. And so if you go to the individual units and you look to the right-hand side there, you see like activities, case studies, and so on and so forth, and you can click view more down there too. They have a lot of other activities that aren't in any of their lesson plans, so look through those as well. A lot of good stuff in there. They also have arcade games, which are always fun to play in the classroom. I already talked about the FinCat Friday questions of the day before, but here's the arcade games they currently have available, and this is actually an old screenshot because they have a crypto, I think it's called Crypto Craze or something to that effect. They have a cryptocurrency one available now too. So those, the more of those you can play, the better in your class. We always get good feedback about those. Take Charge Studies, University of Arizona. You do have to create an account to get on the page, but again, it's free. They just have to confirm that you're an educator. You want to look at the advanced level lessons. You can look at an introductory level too, but those are typically designed for middle school students. The advanced level are designed for high school students. And then if you click on 4,000 minutes, that's a semester course. And then this is sort of an example of what their semester course lessons look like. They have a lot of options. Their lessons are a lot more comprehensive than the NGPF lessons. They're a lot longer. They involve a lot more steps. They give you a lot more options. They have a PowerPoint that goes with every single lesson. So you can pick and choose what you want out of there. And then if you click on one of them here, I just wanted to show you, here's what it looks like. There you see the PowerPoint. They have like a workbook page you can give. Pretty good support provided. It's your paycheck. You don't need an account to create that. You can just go straight to, you see there it's a 9-lesson, really just high quality lessons, and not just for earning income. You see they have stuff on credit. They have stuff on loans. They have a number of different things there. Same with another curriculum program they offer called Making Personal Finance Decisions. That's 10 total lessons, although I believe there's 2 lessons under each one, so I imagine that makes it 20 lessons. I'm good at math. So really, I'd pick out a lot of these are in our OER document, but if you want to go, you can as well. Econ Ed Link through the Council for Economic Education has a ton of resources. And I like their filter tool. You can really pinpoint what you want to search for and find some good resources there. Same with the CFPB. CFPBs can be tough to find. It's not a super user-friendly site, but you can filter them out. I showed you on the left how to access it. You can filter through them. Here's how you access Foolproof for those who, those digital modules. For those who've never accessed it before, you click Login and then Teacher Login, and you'll have to select something to the effect of I'm a new user if you've never used it before. Once you sign in, this is what your page looks like. You can link your students to it by providing them a code. You can develop curriculum. I suggest doing modules only. You see the 3 tabs there. There's modules, assignments, and activities. I suggest doing modules only because they're graded for you. That makes a big difference. The assignments and activities, you can assign them in there, but you would have to do it. So if you wanted to, you could see that link that says Create Curriculum. You can click that and then just go through and choose all the modules. You can decide the time in which they see them and how long they're up for the students. Foolproof has a lot of really good tools to use, and it's great content. Econ Lowdown is in essence a course platform. It's almost like a student a learning management system, an LMS. Sorry, I couldn't spit that out. But really, you could create. We use this a lot during COVID times too, because you could create an entire online course that students could work on. So feel free to use that as you want. Lots and lots of resources. I searched for personal finance. You see that here, and there were 214 personal finance resources. So when you're creating your course, you just hit that plus sign there, and then you can assign it. Once the students have signed in, they have to use a code again, just like the other one. And once they're in there, you can assign them the work. And then there's the financial literacy, the financial freedom workbook, which again, like I said, is free. And if you want to order it at Gold Class Site, you can. And then I'll finish with some additional personal finance programming that we do throughout the district. This is just an example of, we don't just do high school courses. Like I said, I support middle school, I support elementary. We support a lot of outside of school activities as well. So we support a lot of programming. The Stock Market Challenge, I highly suggest. As a matter of fact, it's a required benchmark now. One of the benchmarks is simulating the stock portfolio. So I think this is my favorite to use, which is the Florida Stock Market Challenge. It's offered through the Florida Council for Economic Education. You can sign up for free, sign up for classes for free. And as a matter of fact, the last few years, we've actually had quite a few classes win various prizes in that. They also offer the Florida Budget Game. Again, another great little competition that if you want to get your students involved in, you can. We offer student certifications through WISE, Working in Support of Education. We've long done the teacher certification. Any of you who've ever attended our financial literacy boot camp have had the chance to take this certification test, and quite a few of you have earned it. They have a student version as well. It's not an officially recognized industry certification in the state of Florida, but it's a nice to have. It's a nice tangible to take away from your class to show a potential employer. It's a resume builder. We can get it for free. We have an agreement with WISE. You're the only one at your school that's going to see this. I know I hear that from teachers. They're sometimes afraid of showing their scores or having administrators see their scores, but you don't need to be. They won't see it unless you choose to share it with them. What I can tell you is every year our schools that do this show tremendous growth. So in actuality, you may want to share it with your administration at the end of the year because it shows how much growth your students have achieved from beginning of the semester to end of the semester. So just reach out to me if you're interested in offering that. I'll help you get set up with WISE. We also participate in a partnership with with the VITA program, which stands for Volunteer Income Tax Assistance. You may have heard of VITA before. It's pretty popular around the county. We have 20 plus VITA sites around the county, but these are unique. This is VITA in high schools, and it's a partnership with the IRS and the United Way of Palm Beach County, basically so that your students can serve as income tax preparers. The idea behind VITA is that volunteers prepare income tax returns for low to moderate income earners. I think the cutoff is it's relatively moderate. I think it's like $60,000. And your students are trained. They get certificates through the IRS. And then you open up the site during tax season after school, usually once a week. So once a week for maybe 2 to 3 hours, you're open, and your school community can come in, your community at large can come in, other students can come in. We've found that is, number one, it's a great experience for students. Great experience for students. It's a wonderful skill that they're learning, wonderful hard skill that they're learning, but just the soft skill of having to do customer service, having to do intake of a customer and then sit down and provide that service and listen to the customer, look them in the eyes, and have to prepare the return for them. And then it's just a great community service you're providing for the community. So for the, we had 2 high schools participate. Our first year we had 1 high school participate last year. If you're interested, let me know. I'll be putting out more information soon, but the United Way of Palm Beach County has partnered with us to provide some personnel support. They'll help do some of the trainings, and they'll also help pay, the teacher becomes the site coordinator. You do also have to get certified, and then you're the site coordinator, and there's a stipend for that. There's an $1,100 stipend this year that we're paying for up to 4 site coordinators. So if you're interested, and you hear this, let me know as soon as possible. We'll be putting the call out soon. And there you see sort of the experience, some pictures and some of the stats from what we've done in the past 2 years. If you've never heard of the Go Teach Finland Innovation Grants, I don't know if the application period's still open, but anytime you see it, please apply. I can tell you from serving on the committees and some of these, they don't get a lot of applications for they get a lot of applications, but not for financial literacy. And one of the funders is really a champion of financial literacy education and wants to fund financial literacy projects. So he's created this specific $5,000 award for financial literacy programs. So please apply. If you have a good idea of something that you need money for, apply. And then finally, PD. We do a lot of PD around the district. This year, we're going to really step it up. I don't have a schedule yet. We're in the process of making that schedule from the district. We do have a lot of partners who provide a lot of good PD. Starting with the FAU Center for Economic Education, they've been one of our best partners over the years. When I was a young economics teacher, that's where I learned all my economics teaching skills. Like I said, I would have been lost teaching economics without the FAU Center for Economic Education. So there's their schedule. They like to do their programs at the home base. So a lot of their programs are in Boca, on campus. I've been trying to get them to move around. I'm going to keep asking them to try to move some of these around, but they are in Boca on campus, and typically from 4:30 to 8. That's historically when they do those. But you can see the schedule there. They're not in e-learning yet. They will be in e-learning soon, so you can sign up and earn PD points for them. We've got a big national conference coming to our area, which is awesome. I've been to this conference many, many times. It's my favorite conference to go to every year. It's the Financial Literacy and Economic Education Conference offered through the Council for Economic Education, and it's in Fort Lauderdale this year. So that's great. September 22nd and 23rd. We will be sponsoring a few teachers to go. We'll be paying for registration, basically, because we're not going to pay for a hotel in Fort Lauderdale. You don't have to fly anywhere, so we'll pay for that. We may pay for a few incidentals, but just be on the lookout soon. We'll be releasing that. There's also the Jumpstart National Conference coming up. That's another great personal finance conference. That's in Arizona this year, and it's completely scholarship-driven. So you do have to apply. You can see if you go on that page. I don't know how much longer it's going to be open for. Oh, there it says August 18th. The time is short. But if you get a chance, you can apply to earn that scholarship to go to that conference in Arizona. It's a great place to meet fellow educators and learn about new programs and resources. NGPF has great PD. I know a lot of you have done them, but they have 1-hour sessions almost every day. Not almost every day, every day, usually multiple sessions per day that you can attend after school. They have a lot of on-demand modules that you can do through Nearpod. So those are great. They have some and those are more for you to learn about topics, whereas the live ones are usually to learn about different teaching resources. And then they also have certification courses, which is also to learn more about and become more of a specialist in certain topics. And you can see on there, they do behavioral economics, they do cryptocurrency, they do paying for college, they do psychology of money, they do investing, they do consumer skills, they do credit, they do banking and budgeting, they do insurance, they do paying for college, wide variety of topics. And those certification courses are 10-hour courses. And then we also do a lot of teacher personal finance. Some of you may have attended some of these in the past. We're going to keep doing these. We get such good feedback about these. The bottom line is you as a personal finance educator, we know that for you to be the best personal finance educator you can be, you need to be also comfortable and confident in your own personal finances. And so that involves things like understanding 403B and 457B accounts. Those are the supplemental retirement plans available to you through the district. That's not something you're going to teach to your students, but that's something you know for yourself to help you, someday retire comfortably. Learn more about the FRS. Really you should be intimately familiar with the FRS. It's going to be a significant portion of your assets in retirement. So we talk about that. And some other employee benefits, we may do some. We do a lot of partnerships with 403bwise.org. It's a nonprofit. They've presented in our district, probably 15 times now. So that's great. And I will promise you one thing that you won't see anywhere else throughout the district. There will be absolutely no sales pitches in anything we do at Teacher Personal Finance. Almost every, I shouldn't say every, but a large percentage of the education, personal finance sessions you see pitched are really sales pitches. And the only purpose of them is to get you to buy a certain generally expensive and high commission product. So really, we only have nonprofits, we only have government agencies, we only have people from educational institutions present where there's no profit motive. And there you can see those are some of the sessions we've provided in the past. We typically like to do them at PD days, which is where we have the biggest impact. We can go there for 2 or 3 hours and do a few sessions. We could do it during preschool days, which have now passed, but typically that's what we need a little bit of time to do these. You're not going to show up for an hour and change your financial life, but if we can get you to go through 3 sessions or so, we've learned we can really make a difference in terms of the trajectory and some of the decisions that teachers are making within their 403B plans or within their FRS. So if you think that's something you may be interested in, contact the person at your school who scheduled PDs and reach out to me and we'll figure out a time and a session. I am wide open right now, and we do not have anything scheduled for any PD days this year. So let me know. And then I just wanted to end just to let you know, like I said earlier, we do a lot, not just in high school. We've actually have a middle school elective course now, which is awesome. We had 5 middle schools do it last year. I think we're going to have 8 to 10 do it this year, so we just continue to grow that. That's only going to help your high school courses. As these students, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but in the few years after that, they should. I think you're going to start getting a lot of students who have already a pretty good base knowledge of some personal finance topics, because we also have 4th grade now required standards. So they're going to also begin it in 4th grade, and not only that, but we also do voluntary programs at the kindergarten level and above. So we do a lot of other programs at those levels as well. So that was a lot. Sorry to hold you for so long, and hopefully you made it to the end of this video. Really, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'm always there to help support. For those of you who happen to make it to the end of this video, and if you want one of these fancy, nice, Fin-Lit School District of Palm Beach County shirts, I'll reward you for watching this whole entire video. You can email me at that address, and maybe just in the subject line, put "I watched the video," and then tell me a size that you wear, and I'll get one of these good-looking Fin-Lit shirts sent out to you. So I very much appreciate all your time. I wish you the best of luck in personal finance this year, and always let me know how we can help. Have a good one.